How do you work when you, like personally and professionally, when you have a closed door?
Do you know the story of the Princess Isa? In myth, she was called the Redeemer.
Mr. Snyder, thank you so much for having me again. Great to talk to you. And first of all, you are a director that inspires a lot of new people who wants to create movies. But I wanted to know, who were the directors that inspired you in the beginning?
I guess, you know, the classics. Well, Star Wars was like my favorite movies. There was George Lucas, of course, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, John Borman, Kurosawa.
Yeah.
You know, those are the ones for me that really like made me want to make movies. When in my formative years, what kind of shaped me.
And actually, I feel that there's a lot of like a spirit of Kurosawa in this film, right?
Oh, sure.
I felt that way.
Sure. My parents, when I was young, I would always say like whatever Kurosawa movie was coming, they didn't like these movies. It was all subtitles and they were like, what? So they would drop me at the theater when I was very small. It's really fun. You know, and then whenever there'd be like a retrospective, I would go, even when I was like 12 years old, 13 years old, to see like Throne of Blood or whatever was out. And they were just like, what is up with our child? He just,
What's wrong with him?
he wants to see all the samurai movies.
But it's beautiful that you had like cinema in your blood.
Yeah, I really did. Everyone knew that that was like my kind of thing I loved.
Sofia, thank you so much for talking to me again. I really love your character. And I loved something that you mentioned at the press conference about seeking inspiration and how you don't like when you feel like you're not inspired. So I got really curious to know, where do you seek inspiration and how do you feel that this movie in particular inspired you?
Sometimes I keep going to old things that I know always work, that have inspired me in the past. And sometimes I need something new. And when I cannot find it, I just go and I look up, you know, when there is an art exhibition. I go and try to meet new people, talk with people, have a conversation, read a book. You know, I just try to get it from wherever I can, just having a stroll in nature, spending time alone, just try to take my car and drive somewhere, have a trip somewhere, you know what I mean? Or take a plane and go somewhere. But like really, lack of inspiration to me is equals of like a little death. Not to be dramatic, but I do not like to not be inspired. And I think people feel that naturally without naming it. People love being inspired. I think everybody wants to be inspired. I think some people are more intense with it than others. Some people equal it as boredom. I do not like to be bored. I always think you're not bored, you're boring. So I always try to do something to change that and want to be inspired to that so that I can do something and create.
I do, look, I have tons of books of art, fantasy art, whatever. I'll flip something open, start looking, whatever it is, you know, that's a way kind of get out of it. I like to go to the gym a lot, so I'll go to the gym. That's a way to kind of,
with music?
Yeah, music, absolutely. That's a way to kind of wake yourself up and kind of, it's a trick of getting out of the moment, you know, and then so you can get back to it fresh. That's for me how I can re-inspire. And I think that, and then I'll just draw. The real discipline is like when you don't have an idea, but you have to go.
Yeah,
and that's the real discipline. You have to just, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll just be like, I'll just draw something that I like.
Okay.
And then that will get me to come back to what I'm working. It's tricky but it's real. So it's a good question because it's a thing that I grapple with all the time.
What inspired me about Cora and about this project is just like one of the first things, just working with Zack.
Okay.
You know, he's incredible. He's just, look at his past work. I've always been a fan of his visuals and of his world. He really immerses you into a world entirely. That's how I felt, so I couldn't, and I looked forward to be in slow motion, and that's what I knew. Immediately. I was like, I was going to be in slow motion.
Yeah.
But also, you know, he's an incredible human being. I have so much respect for him, for his craft, and also I was inspired to been given the chance to play a strong woman with a complicated past.
Yes.
And those extremes, those two, that contrast to me was interesting because you get to see how it plays off, you know, when you have vulnerability and strength at the same time, and what you do with it. You know, a big part of Cora is trying to avoid what people are excited about when going to see this film, which is the action sequences. And Cora wants nothing to do with it until she puts herself in a position to where she does not have the choice. But I think I was interested in the reluctance of her having to fight. And Zack liked that. And it didn't translate as it being weakness. Right. It's just vulnerability. It is equal to her past and what she's lived through and what she has to go through, what she had to go through is, and you'll explore more of that in movie number 2. Oh, okay. Because there is a big secret that is revealed in movie number 2 that, I mean, we'll see how people react to that, but Zack really did not give me something easy to play, but it is, you know, a big part of like seeking redemption. And I did not know how to forgive Cora at the beginning. Oh, wow. And I had to, yeah. And you cannot play a role that you cannot defend. You had to find ways to defend it. And then you come out of it and you can judge it. But you cannot judge it. You have to be the lawyer of your character. I did not know how to do it. I kept talking. And then one day, because I kept going at it, I found it. I found something and I accepted it and I forgave her.
And in order to get to this point, like directing Rebel Moon and all the movies you have previously filmed, there are like, it's like a yes, like go ahead, you have a green light, but there are also many no's, you know, like closed doors. How do you work when you, like personally and professionally, when you have a closed door?
It's hard because really for me, it's if the door is closed, it means I always feel like I'm not explaining it well enough. Because I think that I real great confidence in the ideas. I always have to I go back and I create some more art. I go and I work to kind of get the tone cleaner and so people understand it. Because I always feel like, and it's been my experience, that if you really understand kind of what I'm trying to get at.
You should have said yes.
Yeah, you should have said yes.
Was there like a particular film where you struggled more to actually get them to say, all right, let's do it?
Probably the biggest struggle was, I think Sucker Punch was probably the biggest struggle I had. And in the end, you know, it's funny because I say that Sucker Punch is the movie that I have never really realized a true director's cut of that movie. I've talked to the studio about going back and kind of doing it and finishing it again, and I do want to. I think that, that was the movie that was the hardest to sell because I really wanted it to be rated R and they were like, it's too expensive, and there was a lot of back and forth with that. So, but I still love doing it.
What do you feel most proud about making this movie in your process?
I think I'm really pleased with myself with the fact that I was really committed. I think there's one thing that I do not like to feel like, oh, I didn't do everything I could.
You didn't deliver 100%.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest fears. But I feel like I bring that in everything that I do. I think because of the nature of this one and what it was required physically to be there constantly was a lot. But every single time I knew it was the right thing. You know, I had to wake up at 7 and wake up at 4 in the morning to be ready on set, filming at 7 in the morning, shooting sequences or acting scenes that were really hard to go through physically and mentally. And you had to go from 1 to 100 in a split second early morning, having not slept a lot. So it's just like that rhythm. I feel like I brought it every single time. But in my mind, there's still a little voice that tells me, you didn't push hard enough. But that's my dancer brain. Yes. And I try to be nicer to myself in that field. So I'm trying. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I'm pleased with myself for having committed as much as I have. And I'll do it all over again and more if I had to.
What I'm most proud of is this sort of the incredible team. First, my cast is insane. But bringing this sort of family of my film family together and doing this original thing and shooting in LA. We never shoot in LA. Shooting at home and just really just creating this giant world that no one's ever seen. So that's what I was most proud of, that I have to, when I rely on my guys to do it, they rise, they keep, who knows what they're capable of. It's incredible.
Nice. Thank you so much,
no, thank
Mr.
you.
Snyder.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us Cora.
Thank you.
Among you is willing to die for what you believe.